I'm Reuven Lerner, and I'm delighted to be presenting this lightning talk for BellPie about dates and times in pandas. Many people use pandas in the world of data science. I'm among them. I also teach lots of courses in pandas. And one of the things I most love about pandas is how it handles dates and times. Now, there's a lot to talk about, so I'm going to try to squeeze it in as much as possible into this lightning talk. So I have loaded up pandas into the Jupyter Notebook, and I've also loaded up a CSV file that I really like to play with. And this CSV file is from a few years ago. It's from 2015, from taxi rides in New York. Basically, every single taxi ride is recorded in a central system, and you can actually download the data and play with it. And among the pieces of information we have that I've loaded, we have the pickup date time, the drop-off date time, the passenger count, the trip distance, and the total amount. So we can find out basically at a given moment in time how many trips there were, or on average, how many passengers were there, or how much did people pay for their trips? Well, we kind of can. If we look at df.info, we're going to see that actually all of these columns, well, these columns don't really lend themselves to that kind of analysis. The passenger count is an int, the trip distance and total amount are floats, that makes sense, but the pickup and the drop-off date times are not date time objects at all. They are object, which basically means string. So if we want to load these in as dates, if we want actually to be able to handle them as dates, we're going to need to load them a little bit differently. I'm going to reload this. And instead of just letting pandas sort of figure out what types they are, I'm going to say here, parse dates. I'm going to give it tpep pickup date time. And I'm going to say here, tpep drop off date time. And now it loads again. It looks exactly the same when I look at it in my head. However, it's not the same, because if I look at df.info, we're now going to see that both the pickup and the drop-off columns are now of type date time 64. We have successfully turned them into date times. So what? So what? Actually, that's worth a lot. We can do a lot with this. Like what? What would I want to do, for example? Well, you have to understand that there are two different ways of working with dates and times in all computer systems, pandas included. And we have timestamps or datetime objects, and those describe a particular point in time. But we also have time deltas, the distance between times. And so if you take one timestamp minus another timestamp, that gives you a time delta. For example, I can say here, df of tpep, let's do df of tpep drop off date time minus df of tpep pickup date time. What's that going to do? That's right, it's going to give me a time delta series, which represents how long each ride was, right? So for all these 10,000 rides, 999 rides, I get a new series that's of type time delta. This is actually a type that Pandas knows how to deal with. Well, I'm not just going to keep it around. I'm actually going to copy this, and I'm going to stick it into a new column, df of trip time. And now if I look at my df head, sure enough, I have a new column, trip time, which describes how much time the trip took. Well, that's pretty good, right? Yeah, but it gets better. Because I could, of course, say, I want to know how many trips took longer than 1 hour. That's a pretty long taxi ride, don't you think? Yeah. So I'm going to say df of trip time is greater than 10000. Look at that. It knows how to take that string and compare it with the time. What do I get back? As always, a Boolean series, which I can then apply. And look at that. Now I get all the rows in which the trip time was greater than 1 hour. I don't need to do all sorts of messy calculations. I can just use it this way. And that works really nicely and well. By the way, how many such trips were there? Out of our 10,000 trips, 170 of them. So 170 out of 10,000, that's going to be, well, it's 1.7%. It's not nothing. It's not a lot. But, if one out of every 100 taxi rides you took longer than an hour, well, that's a lot of time in taxis. We can also do something else once we have set up our pickup date time and drop off date times as dates and not just as strings. I can pull out information from them. I can say df of tpep pickup date time, for example, .dt. .dt is the special accessor for date time objects, right? And if I do this here, it says, oh, this is going to give you lots of date time properties. What can I pull out of there? Well, actually, I can pull out a heck of a lot. I can say dt, give me the hour. And now I'm going to get a new series back, a series containing the hours at which people took taxi rides. What can I do with that? Well, this is not a representative data set, so I don't want you to think that it is. But from the data that I've downloaded, I can then say, well, if this is a series, show me value counts, one of my favorite functions. And so this shows me that out of the data that I have, 4,300 rides were at 11 a.m., 2,500 rides were at 3 p.m., 2,400 rides were at midnight, and 628 rides were at 4 p.m. So I can see the distribution of the different times. I can even go further than that, right? And I can create a pie chart. I can say dot plot, dot pi. And there we go. Now we can see the distribution of hours across my data. I can also pull out other things from there. This DT accessor is extremely, extremely powerful. I can pull out what day of the week it is, day, right? And it's going to tell me which day of week. And then I can also do that on a plot pie and see what the distribution is. Oh, no, I didn't do a value counts. Oh, no, don't do that. Today, let's do then value counts dot plot dot pie. Yeah, that's going to be much better. Oh, it might still be thinking in the background there. All right, we're going to just stop that and let it do its thing. Stop, stop, stop. All right. There we go. Much better now. Don't ever try to do a pie plot with lots of data in the folk and then the back folks. All right, and we can see then that we have different days of the week that are being involved here. All right, so those are some of the basic things that we can do once we have put our data into a timestamp. But we can do more. I can set the index, df equals df, set index to be tpep pickup date time. And now if I look at my df head, look what I've got. That's right, now my index is actually a date time. So now I can say, for example, df.lock of 2015-0602, 11/19/29. And what is this going to do? That's right, it's going to show me all the rows that have that exact date time. Okay, that's nice. Not super exciting, but nice. But it's smart enough also that if I leave off more specific information, it'll use as a wildcard. So now, look at this. I'm getting all of the rides that were at 2015, 06, 02, 11/19, and any number of seconds. And of course, I can make it more and more general if I want to. I can then take off the 19 and make it just 11 a.m. And now it's anything 11 a.m. with anything after that. I can get more and more general if I like, which is also kind of nice for looking at trends. And of course, then I can, do whatever I want. I can say, dot mean or whatever else I might like. Well, it's not going to get the mean for certain kinds of things. Fine. The last thing that I might want to do, and this is perhaps one of the most powerful things, but it is lightning talk, is I can say df dot resample. Resample means take the earliest time, assuming you have a timestamp as an index. That only works that way. So you say, okay, start from the earliest time you have, you go to the latest time you have, and divide it up into even slices, even if you don't have any even if you don't have any data there. So I'm going to resample according to 1 hour. Okay, well now what? Well, now I've got this resampler object. Now I can say, show me the trip distance dot mean. This is now is what's going to do then is for each hour in the system, it's going to give me the mean trip distance. Now there are a lot of nans in here because of course there's a lot of holes in my data. So I'm just going to say here drop NA, and that's going to get rid of a lot of it. And so we end up with the 4 hours that we talked about before. And we see that for each of these hours, what was the mean trip distance in miles? Well, at midnight, it was a mean distance of 4 miles, 4.3 miles. During the day, it was 2.6, 2.9, 2.8 miles. So we could infer, if this were good data, we could maybe infer that late at night, people take taxis for longer. Okay, this was a lightning talk. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will look more into Pandas and all the cool stuff you can do with times and dates when you're using it. Look me up. I'm Reuven Lerner. I would love to hear from you. Enjoy the rest of the conference.